Today I will give a lecture regarding the feathers of the bird. Feathers, like scales, are also integumentary derivative. Integument layer generally comprises two distinct layers. One is known as epidermal layer, other one is known as dermal layer. Epidermal layer or epidermis remains above the dermis. Epidermis laterally bears the non-living layer above of it as a cuticle. However, epidermis generally comprises three distinct layers. Uppermost layer is known as stratum corneum. Underneath of it you find stratum germinativum, which one is called as the Malpighian layer. But stratum corneum is a stratified and cornified layer, but stratum germinativum is not cornified layer. Underneath of it you find no cell layer that is named as basement membrane, which is giving the mechanical support to the stratum germinativum at the beneath. That one also differentiates the dermis by the presence of it, and generally basement membrane differentiate to the what? The dermis or dermal layer from the epidermis. My topic is today restricted on the epidermal nature. You find feathers on the body of the birds, and that is generally comes out or derived from the stratum corneum, not from the stratum germinativum. However, the feathers are the remarkable features or extraordinary characters, or also be called as striking characters of the birds. Birds are covered by the feathers usually, which are not found in other group of animals. Feathers are dry, non-living and cornified like your hairs, but products of stratum, but the cornea of the epidermis. These unique structures are light in weight but strong, elastic and water. They show different colors due to presence of the pigments named as melanin of various shades and structural arrangements. However, feathers generally forming the streamlined body and protects the body from the external pressures and injury, and conserve the body heat and make broad surface of wings and tail used for flight. Okay? Know the nature of the feathers. Feathers are the characteristics of the birds and do not occur in other group of the animals. They have been aptly designated the nature's masterpiece. You know, bird is known as glorified animal due to having these unique features on their bodies. These unique structures are very light, elastic, waterproof, and most important in flight. And you must get the different colors in the feathers are due to the presence of the melanin of the various Welcome students. You already know what is feathers. And you know here, feathers are nothing, these are the epidermal derivative. It is arising from the stratum corneum. It is one striking characteristic of the bird. Usually, bird possesses such character in its body. Thus, this type of characters you cannot find in the other group of animals. They have been aptly designed the nature's masterpiece. This unique structure gives the position of the evolution to bird as a glorified animal. However, feathers are very light, elastic, waterproof, and most important, in flight. Different colors of feathers are due to the presence of melanin of various shades as well as due to iridescence. They are variously modified in different birds to meet the diverse need of these animated aeroplanes. Feathers, like the scale, shows the same type of development. That means the mode of development of feathers is like that of the scales. Feathers are also be moulted like the scales time to time and replaced seasonally, and it is also be different types which are generally seen in the bird's body. Usually 3 types of feathers you are noticed in there. They are named as contour feather, down or plumulage, and philoplumage, which are called as like hair feathers or hair-like feathers. The arrangement or the distribution of feathers on the body of the bird is known as the pterylosis, known as pterylosis, P-T-E-R-Y-E. L-O-S-I-S, pterylosis. Pterylosis means the arrangement of feathers on the body of the bird. Okay, and you see the feathers are not uniformly distributed in some birds. In some birds, they are also uniformly distributed. Okay, in flightless birds, which are remaining under the order Ratitae, R-A-T-I-T-A-E, Ratitae, feathers are uniformly distributed over the body. But in the order your Carinatae, C-A-R-I-N-A-T-A-E, feathers are arranged in distinct patches or tracts. If the feathers are well distinct in some patches, that is called as pterylae, P-T-E-R-Y-L-A-E, pterylae. That is called as pterylae, L-A-E, pterylae. And there is no feathers in some places. In case of some birds, that is interspecies, in there is no feathers. That is called as pteria. That is named as pteria, P-T-E-R-I-A. Okay, interior, you mark here, if there is no feathers, and it will be written like this, area. Okay, that is A P E R I. Here you see the spelling of these three terms. One is called as your pterylosis, other one is called as pterylei, other one is called as arteria. You see, P in pterylosis and pterylei, P is silent, and P all the times in phonetically cannot pronounce. You can keep in silent, and you can say in there the like this: pterylosis, pterylei, and arteria. Arteria means there is no feathers on that patches. Okay, that is free from the feathers. That is called as apteria. Okay, pteria at where you find the feathers are there. If there is no feathers, that is called as apteria. That means no feathers in there. Okay, which remain separated by the featherless interspaces and called apteria. The arrangement of pterylei varies in different orders, families, and even some species of the birds. The principal your pterylei found in the birds in case of the pigeon are cephalic, that means on the head, and cervical means at the neck, humeral in case of the upper arm, spinal in case of the vertebral column areas, ventral, that means at the ventral side of the bird, alar at the pit, and caudal means tail, and lumbar means at the waist region, and femoral at the thigh, crural at the sand. In these areas, you find the feathers and paws. Okay, due to distribution in these areas, they will be remain like this. The feathers of cephalic, feathers of the your cervical, feathers of the humeral, feathers of spinal, feathers of ventral, feathers of alar, feathers of your caudal, feathers of lumbar, feathers of femoral, feathers of the what? Your crural. In this manner, the feathers are distributed in the some birds which are belonging under the your family of the what? Your Carinaceae. Okay, and especially in the pigeon, that these are well differentiated. Let us come to know about the structure of the typical feather. I already plotted the diagram of the feather on the blackboard, and this is the one your typical feather. And consider this feather as one prime feather, also be known as the contour feather. It has two ends. One is called as proximal end, other one is known as distal end. If you refer to the feather very meticulously, you find one pipe-like structure at its base, which one is called as quill and a calamus. It is a part of the axis or the mainstay. And axis or mainstay means calamus plus rachis, and this portion is the calamus or quill, and this portion is called as your rachis, and that is axial structure. It remains from longitudinal manner from to proximal end to distal end. Just at the two lateral sides, you find some barbs are also raised up, and these are called as rami, and they are remaining at the two sides. And this is the outside, this is the inside. The inner vein, you find the very large vein and your large barbs and rami. Okay, at the outer, you mark there. Outer outwards of the your vein is very less developed. That means outer vein comprises less length of the barb or ramus. Okay, and in between them, you also find one longitudinal axial structure, which one is called as rachis or also named as sac. You see, this vein also be separated from the your thalamus or quill by one area. At there you find some soft hair-like structures are arise. That is called as hyporachis, or also be called as aftershaft. Okay, in there you find fine and hairy-like, soft hairy-like structures are arise off. Okay, you refer to your calamus or quill, which are present at the proximal end of the axis. It bears one furrow and also groove at the base of it, and that is called as your inferior umbilicus, which are lifts up to your superior umbilicus, which are remaining after a distance on your calamus or quill. Okay, just above it you find one groove is also running, that is called as your groove of your rachis. That is also continued at the end of the penis. Then you mark the space which will generally provide in the inferior umbilicus. To it, some papilla-like structure also be leads to there. That is called dermal papillae. To it, the blood vessel also belongs to it, and not only blood vessels, to it also nerve fibers also leads, and that is only living portion. A rest part of the you see on the feeder are all non-living. Feeders in total is non-living except your dermal papilla. Okay, and you find that structure in there, and you mark any contour feeder which you have seen on the body of your part generally comprises two distinct parts, and one is axis or mainstem, and other one is called as vein or axillum. This portion is called as vein, and that is called as also called as the what in the axillum. That is otherwise called as axillum. Okay, this is also called as vexillum. Then you study the axis. The axis is divided in a proximal lower portion of the feeder, and that is called as the calamus or the quill, and the distal upper portion of the feeder would be known as rachis or shaft. What is calamus? Calamus, otherwise called as quill, is a hollow tubular in shape and semi-transparent, and the base of the calamus is inserted into a pit or the epidermal follicle, and to justify to that follicle, I will exhibit you one cap of the pen. That is this is the marker, and marker has one cap, and you consider, and it is one feeder, and this green portion of the feeder will be known as the calamus or quill, and the white portion which was remaining above of it, that is called as your vein. Okay, and vein will be remaining at the above. That means entire your feeder will be explained in the two heads, axis and vein. This is the axis, you can continuing from the proximal to distal, and vein will be remaining at the two lateral sides of the axis. That portion is called as vein. And generally, and you find at the below as the calamus, at the above you find the rachis. And rachis plus calamus aggregatively called as the axis. Okay, calamus plus what? Rachis aggregatively called as axis. Okay, and the bulbs containing area must be called as vein, and it will be differentiated as outer vein and inner vein. And inner vein possesses greater length of your bulbs and running, and while the outer one generally comprises less length of the bulbs and running. Okay, and this is the differentiation in between your inner vein or inner wave and your outer wave and outer vein. Okay, and there outer and inner aggregatively called as completely vein, or that is called as vexillum. Okay, then you study to the internal cavity of the follicle, and at which you find the muscle fibers pass to the feeder and effect the individual movements. At the lower end of the quill is a small opening, the inferior umbilicus, and which one generally receives a small conical, a nutritive papilla of the dermis, that is called as dermal papilla. People attribute to you that one. What is the name? Dermal papilla, through which blood vessels enters into the supply nutrients and pigments melanin to the developing feeder. And second micro opening also we noticed at the uppermost part of the inferior umbilicus, that is called superior umbilicus, and that one remaining at the junction of the quill and the rachis, okay, on the inner or ventral side. And you can locate very easily at the ventral side of the feeder. In many birds, including some pigeons, a small top short feathers also be noticed in between your two areas, and one area remaining below, that is called as what? Called as the thalamus or quill, and other is known as what? Your vein. Just in between them you find one region is remain, and that is remaining in between also rachis as well as your thalamus, and that area is called as hyporachis or aftershaft, and that one providing the ample scopes to develop the top and short feeders, okay, and that hyporachis generally remain in between them, that is otherwise called as aftershaft, okay, and your small tops of the soft feeders called the aftershaft and hyporachis arise near the superior umbilicus and covers, and you observe in different birds you find very peculiarities in there. Somewhere also you find the very larger in sizes, somewhere also very minute in sizes. In crossway, emu and extinct like the Deinonychus, okay, in their aftershaft as long as the main feathers, but in case of the pigeon it is very minute in form, okay, and this is the description regarding your the axis, especially that is based upon the thalamus. Under the axis you can know another part which one is called rachis. It will be remaining at the distal region, and the rachis of the shaft and form the longitudinal axis of the vein. It differs from the thalamus in being steep, solid, opaque, roughly quadrangular in transverse section, and filled with a closely packed mass of the bead cells, and it is generally well differentiated, and a longitudinal furrow which one is called as umbilical groove must be present, which runs along the inner or ventral surface of the rachis throughout the length. Okay, then you consider the vein. After your axis, the next part is called as vein. These are the prominent two principal parts, and I already depicted the characters of the axis, and in axis I also described the characteristics of your calamus or quill as well as also rachis, and which are also be called as your shaft. And after that completion of the description of the axis, then you know about the vein, and vein is the main portion of the feathers, and it will be remaining towards the distal, the expanded membranous part of the feather, usually called as the vein or also be called as maxilla. It is divided by the rachis into two unequal lateral halves, and its the distal end is narrow than that of the proximal end. It will study better on the blackboard diagram. The vein is formed by a series of numerous parallel and closely spaced delicate thread-like structures which are named as the barbs. Okay, you find some barbs, they are also parallel to each other, but towards your proximal they are also broad and elongated, but towards the distal end it is going to be short and also narrow. Okay, and you see barbs otherwise called as rami, and these arise somewhat obliquely from the two lateral sides of the rachis and two ends of the, and that rachis, the size of the barbs gradually decreases towards the two ends of the rachis, and each barb in its turn and gives rise to a double row of the many extremely delicate oblique filaments, and these are named as the barbules, B-A-R-B-U-L-E-S, and also be known as radii, R-A-D-I-I. And the barbules are also two types. You find some barbules towards the distal. These are called as distal barbules. If you notice to them at the proximal, you can say to them the proximal barbules. You see what are the difference in between them? The distal barbules directed towards the tip of the feather, and proximal barbules directed towards the base of the feather. And by these features you can differentiate to them. And the lower edge of the distal barbules is produced into minute and hooklets, and hamuli are also be called as your barbicels. And while the upper edge of the proximal barbulus is deeply curved or the roll forming a groove, also known as the flange. Owing to the oblique deposition of the barbules of the adjacent barbs and overlap the booklets of the distal barbulus and becomes the interlocked with the curved edge or the flanks of the proximal barbulus. Okay, with these limited sliding interlocking arrangements, all the barbs and barbules are closely held together so that the vein forms a flexible and firm and wide, flat and continuous surface, and ideal for the striking the air in flight. And these interlocking the parts can be easily pulled apart, and for if the vein is stretched, it will be first resist but eventually split, and they can be slipped in the flesh again, and the original unity also restored by drawing them through the closed fingers. And the birds repair such damaged feathers by preening and pulling them through their beaks. You will find such type of scenario on the bird's body when the birds watching the bird on the branches of the plants. And feathers of ostrich and geese, and that have the lost of the power of the flight, or lack the interlocking arrangements or mechanisms in there, and is very and fluffy. After shaft never possesses the barbules in there. There is no your barbicels also. Thank you. And I end in here. And you see, I only give the description of the structure of the typical feather to you.